anybody's got a question, you can go ahead with it at any time, and I will see if I can help you out. A lot of stuff this week. Kept getting sidetracked on all kinds of things. Well, not sidetracked exactly. Expanding projects when I got into learning about something and found new stuff to get into. I went ahead and raining outside, so why not just go ahead, keep looking, keep working things out. Oh my goodness. I wonder if that's a crepe myrtle. Wow, that's pretty bark. Probably drive somebody crazy trying to plant things, but I'd do what they do there and keep it clear so you could see those beautiful feet. Gail sent in this picture. She said, "Look what this guy did to keep the squirrels off his feeder." She said, "I hope he didn't hurt himself while he was doing that." I don't know where you even get. Well, I suppose you could make it. You could buy sheet metal and cut it, but we must have gotten it from somewhere. Steve tried to spiral a slinky up the Shepherd's Crook pole one time because we've heard that putting a slinky on the pole is a good way to keep squirrels from climbing up. You attach the slinky up to the top of the pole and have it encase the pole so that the squirrel grabs the slinky and the slinky um, stretches out and takes them down. I think he couldn't figure out how to get it attached to the top of the pole, so we didn't do that. But this is somebody who definitely doesn't want the squirrels to chew on his brand new bird buddy feeder. We like to make pumpkin monsters. Say a dinosaur eating a pumpkin. I think we ended up putting a face on the pumpkin inside the dinosaur dragon's mouth, but this was before I had that done. Cold outside again today. I This is the time of year when I'm always hesitant to hesitant. I have this barrier to getting outside because I think, okay, now I got to put on all my clothes. I put on all the layers. I'm too hot inside if I wear that stuff when I get dressed in the morning. So when I go out, once it gets above 45 degrees, I can't really work below 45 degrees. My hands just don't want to do much without complaining, and that's no fun. So whenever I do go out, that means I have to totally undress to put the long johns on, to put my layers back on. I walk outside for a minute and I think of three more things that I should have done this week or should have talked about or should have looked up. It's hard to even look around this time of year when you think time is running out. There's so many nice days in November. I mean, there always are, but it's so easy this time of year when the cold first comes in to say, okay, I'm done, and stop thinking about going out, stop planning on doing things. And I think it's important that we just keep doing things. You just got to keep going, like Ginger Reichenbach told us. Wait, Reichenbach. Yeah, Ginger Reichenbach told us. She said, just never stop. Just don't stop.
Hmm.
Is the mower over at Corey's house?
Yes.
'Cause I think I'm going to mow everything short. That Johnson grass that's out there in the lawn. I do not want to let it stay tall right next to the beds because it's going to creep into the beds where I've got them all edged right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that to cut it short, reasonably short.
Because the rest of the grass that I wouldn't normally want to cut short is pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Just that Johnson grass out there. This is a grass that grows very quickly and has a woody root system. I mean, it is it is woody and it's very deep. And I am just amazed at how much it creeps in. It's quite a weed in the southeast, yeah, in the southeast of the United States. But I learned it as a weed down there in their pastures, not up here. And this neighborhood is full of it. All I can think is that somebody trucked in a bunch of soil when they were um, changing what is pretty much was probably pretty much a wet area in the 60s. They dredged and filled and made an artificial lake and some streams to it. And I think probably some soil got brought in from someplace else. Those of you who are here early who have not been here before, this is your chance to ask questions before we get started on things. You can ask questions or chat questions if you want anytime during the presentation, or you can click your raise your hand control. Oh, looking for the best peonies that are disease-free and non-staked. I wish that I knew the names of the peonies. We have all of our peonies other than our intersectional peonies. Um, we have Barzella and First Arrival um, intersectional peonies. I think we also have we might have Sarah Bernhardt out there. But the other peonies that we have, I don't know their names. I do know that of the four or five of them, five of them, one of them flops all over the place, and I have to dig it out and just get rid of it because that's probably the answer. But we just don't have many named peonies. Um, I could grab a catalog.
Not that I remember. We got about 1 minute to 7. Ruth has a hand up. Do you want to wait and get
Oh,
her
no.
after?
No, let's go ahead. Okay, so anybody who might be new, raise your hand or chat your question in. And
It's Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth.
Oh, I just added it to chat, but I didn't. I have a lot of Galanzoga that got away, and you know that little weed, and
yes,
I
I do
wondered
know it.
if those are going to overwinter, those little seedlings, or if now that I got rid of the ones that had flowers on them, if they'll just die.
I am, I'm not sure whether the gallon soda is going to die or not. That's a fairly new weed for me. Maybe, I don't know. I guess it's longer ago than that because when I was writing the last book that we wrote, the editor wanted me to include it. But it's relatively new, and I haven't noticed whether.
It's a weed that I haven't ever encountered in large numbers in my garden before, but this year, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Was it?
used to encounter it in very like commercial gardening sites where I was weeding was where I first encountered it and where
Yeah,
nothing else was growing.
we saw it. We first saw it in Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure is where I saw it when I was at a weed workshop actually, and the Cornell guys were talking about it. It's another one of the little weeds, you guys, with a little in kind of indistinct white flower on it, and it's one of the ones that spreads rapidly. I think you probably need to smother the seedlings because it germinates pretty early in the spring, which means that it can handle a lot of cold.
Hmm.
But is it a cold season weed? I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I'm not sure,
I'm thinking it might be both. I might
especially
just,
if
Right,
it's
right. That it
blooming
just grows
now.
all the time. Yeah, yeah. There are definitely places like
oh,
that.
there's a thought. Looking at the chat.
Okay. Yeah,
Ready?
weed workshop seminar. I'm working on a new revised weed presentation for the spring for who? For somebody who asked us to do. I
I
don't know.
know
Yeah, we already
I
have one.
thought we did a weeds webinar already, but
We do, but we
I'll
didn't
have to
cover
check.
we didn't cover
Yeah,
we
a
covered.
lot of stuff.
I thought I would start a new one, especially since there have been some new weeds that moved in since. But we should have a
Yep.
weed workshop someplace. We went to the weed workshop that we were at in Pennsylvania was with Andy Senezek, who's one of the authors of Weeds of the Northeast. Weeds of the Northeast. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it? And he brought, and he was in Pennsylvania, but he came from New York. He brought boxes and boxes and unpacked them so that everybody got a a tray, a seedling pack of weeds. So we each had a quackgrass. We each had I can't remember what they all were. A goosegrass. We had some of the others that were in there. Um, I think we had a radium weed. But anyway, while we were working on things, we could actually see the plant we were talking about and look at what kind of root it had. And he told us how old they were and how quickly they grew. It was pretty cool. I'd love to be able to do that, but I'm not about to be able to grow a bunch of weeds. No, I wouldn't do that. You want to
No.
go ahead, you want to go ahead and start us, Steve?
Yep. Good evening and welcome to Free for All Friday, our 58th edition of meeting up with all gardeners who are welcome to come and celebrate growing and cultivate problem solving.
This is gardenataz.org, and I'm Janet McConovich.
I'm Stephen Nicola.
And we do go outside on most days, but today we sit inside to talk about gardening because for our website, we are trying to put all the things that we've written up over the last 30 years or so onto our website so that we can be writing new things all the time now, be researching new things. It's what we started the website for 13 years ago. And we like to keep it running and we like to keep in touch with people because the more that we talk to people and look into questions that they have and hear the discoveries that they've made, the more we learn and the more we can turn those things around to you and you can share on with other people and with us too. So we are doing our Free for All Fridays so that we can stay in touch with you. And we hope you'll tell people about them and tell them that there's stuff there they can look at. Oh man, Steve, I was looking today through the log of what's posted, and there are like 300 issues of growing concerns still not posted. There's so much to put up there.
Well, you wrote so much.
Every time I get, yeah, I sometimes can't get stopped once I get going because it's fun to look them up. So tell people about it and tell them that they just go to the Fridays page on our website. The link is always there so that they can click on and join us on a Friday evening.
Even if the date is wrong.
Even if the date is wrong, it's true. I have not changed that date.
I try to, but you know how that goes. We have Therese asks, will weeds that are growing now die over winter, or is it important to get them out?
If they germinated now, they are almost certainly cold season weeds. If they germinated back while it was still warm in early October, they might die. If they're far enough up from the ground that the ground isn't protecting them. But the cold season weeds like the chickweeds and the bitter cress and creeping speedwell and so many things are out there right now. Those are able to live through the winter and start growing again as soon as it gets to be about 50 degrees, uh, which is early. And they tend to be blooming by the time we get out there. If we get out in April, they're already blooming and setting seed and spreading themselves around. So it's a good idea to not leave little weeds if you don't, unless you know for sure that they are something like, let me see what could have germinated now and not. Well, there are, some cover crops that you use like oats, they're going to die over the winter, even though they germinated in the cool. Um, there are some winter wheats you can use as cover crops too, and some annual clovers that will die. But most of those things out there that you didn't put out there, they're probably going to be back.
Yeah, Susanna just asked, how about clover? It depends on whether it's perennial or annual.
Yeah, and Dutch white clover that's in a lot of people's lawns is a perennial. Um,
She says it's spreading like a ground cover through her beds.
yeah, well, the annual clovers
That's,
spread too, but they spread
yep.
during the season and then die back. But most of the time you don't have annual clovers. You can buy annual clovers as a cover crop, but most of the time the clover that we have is Dutch white clover and it does spread. And then there are some weeds like oxalis that people call clover. That's not clover. They're perennial. There are some oxalis that are perennial and they do spread like a ground cover. There are some oxalis that are annual and are cool season weeds. So if it looks like a clover leaf, if it looks like a shamrock leaf, I would carefully dig one out, take a look at the roots, and see whether or not it's got running roots that are running away from it. If they are, then you've got one of the runners, and you need to take it out. This is a beautiful spice bush, Steve.
Yeah, that one was really nice.
Do you
Hated to
remember?
leave that one.
Do you remember where that is?
Our house.
Oh, was that? Oh, okay. Those are the U's right between us and Ann and Fred. Wow.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
And,
It's
yep.
hard when you leave a garden, isn't it? You guys, you leave behind things that have grown for so many years. Oh, what nice lichen. Great.
On a bench.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this week, it's when time's most precious. Just all week long, we were sucked down rabbit holes, just working along on something and a diversion related to what we were doing just took us off to someplace else. It went on all over, and time is so precious right now. So it's good that there was some rain and we didn't feel bad on a couple of the days that we didn't get out. But it is such fun. So today I'm a little scattered, and you're going to see me going in all directions on some of these topics. If it's too much for you, raise your hand and say stop. Going off in different places. So we started out the beginning of the week with working on a holding bed. Oh, I got hiccups again. Um,
Oops.
a holding bed is a place that you put plants that you want to keep, but don't have the permanent place ready for them yet. And what happens with a holding bed, with me anyway, so this week at our friend Teresa's house, we're helping her do a move of some parts of her garden when now she has to suddenly change houses. She has to move to a new house. It has to do with being able for her husband, who's in a wheelchair, to get around. And so I dug some things up, like her Lenten rose, because it takes longer to grow. So this is worth digging up and taking with us. Um, and knocked as much soil off the roots as I could and moved it. I'm not interested in dividing it now. I just want to keep it so that when she closes on the new house, we can move it over there. And things like these are crocosmia bulbs. Crocosmia has a bright red orange flower on it. It's got a tall leaf like a huge iris or a huge gladiolus. It's in that same family. And red orange flowers that come out that the hummingbirds like a lot. So I dug up the things at Teresa's house and cleaned the roots off as much as I could. I don't want to take her weeds from her existing garden to the new garden in any great numbers. And she does have a problem in the existing garden with Star of Bethlehem that we've been fighting and with horsetail scouring rush. So I'm cleaning them all off and bringing them over and planted them in a bed that I cleared out at our house to hold for her. And because they're cut back or bare root, most of them, I've marked them with a stake because I have a tendency to think and look at a piece of the garden, and if it looks to me like nothing's there, I'm liable to plant something else in it. There are times when I've planted a place in the garden 3 times, not remembering that I planted it before, and then everything comes up in a jumble. So if you're making a holding bed, think about marking the things that are there. I know what they are, so it's not that I have to mark their name. It's to mark that there is something there, Janet. Watch out, it's there. Lenten roses at the end of the bed. There's some coreopsis I didn't cut back. There's a crocosmia, a peony. Um, what else did I see? I've already forgotten what I put there. There's about 10 plants. They keep on going down the way here. And there was rain, but it was not a lot of rain. It was enough to get the plants wet and wet the top of the soil, but not enough to fill a rain garden. More like what's left after a couple of days after a hard rain or a good rain. So I'm still going to be watering those plants until the ground freezes because they just got moved in. And if I want them to have good roots for next spring and come up strong in their new place in the new garden, you need to keep watering. So don't let the rain fool you this time of year. If you've got a new plant, go ahead and keep going. And the reason I cleared things out of that bed is that I have this space out in our wild area. This is the part of the garden that we try not to manicure. This is where we want to leave plants up as much as we can, let them do their own thing. And we grow a lot of natives. This is Rudbeckia Lycineata gold herb's son. And I'm decided a couple of years ago, it's beautiful, it blooms for a long time, it's big, and that's good to have there, but it's too much flopping when I don't cut it down over the wintertime. It lays on top of too many other plants with all the stalks that are there, and it's been growing too fast, and it's as big as I am. So I have to take that out and move things from that bed that is now a holding bed to here. And the things that were in the holding bed were things that I plopped in there years ago, telling them I'll move you when I get a chance, and now I'm finally moving them. So when that was little, it was just a little guy. By 2 years later, it was a big thing that I cut into 7 pieces, kept 3 of them and put 3 of them in. When I moved it just now, it was even bigger across. It was a big clump. because I took two of the three out eventually. It was a big clump about, a little over 3 feet across. And I took it out. And what's really hard when you do that is that I decided that that plant is not right for us and it has to come out. Trying to throw those plants out into the compost and actually get rid of them, all of them. I can't tell you how many times I turned around and picked up one piece and went, well, maybe I'll just keep one piece. No, if a plant's not right for you, get rid of it. If I want to get more, it's not a plant that's out of production. I can go buy another one. Plus, I've given it to two or three people. I can always call somebody up. I can call Pam or Karen and say, can I get back a piece of that herbston? So do what you can. If you really decided that you're going to change plants, get rid of it. Get rid of all of it. Don't keep a piece of it. What I'm moving in its place is I moved in the Coreopsis triteris. That's this one back here, which just doesn't look like it, but it's actually under the branches, under the spread of this fir tree behind it. I plopped it in there before I made our new beds, and it was just a non-grassy area under the edge of the fir. It should be another foot or so taller. Right here, it's 5 feet. And it's a coreopsis. It's a late blooming coreopsis. It doesn't bloom until end of July, sometimes middle of August. And that's a good time for us to have color out there. But its stems are much thinner around, easier to cut, don't lay on top of things so much. So I took that one out and filled the holding plants in. I also took out spoke thistle, gave it to the neighbor and I took out all the balloon flower. Are there questions about anything going on this week?
Nope, we haven't gotten any in the chat.
Okay. Plan of the
No
week.
hands up.
Plan of the week. No mystery here to get started with. It's the hickories.
But just as I said, Michelle raises her hand.
Okay, Michelle, go.
I I have Rebecca that I just ripped out of the garden because it always had the black spots and couldn't get rid of it. I also had the Virginia sweet spire and a little bit left of the red twig dogwood. Both of those have purple spots on them. I'm wondering, are they all related? Could they all be related to bad drainage problem?
Uh, they're all fungus problems, the leaf spots, and it's septoria on the Rudbeckia, almost for sure. They're
Yeah.
like purple brown spots.
Yeah,
I don't believe that the fungus on the red twig dogwood, the dogwood leaf spot, is a different one. It's shared with the viburnums, but I don't think that it's the one that gets the Rudbeckia. It might be a septoria, but there are a lot of different septorias. It's a big group. But anytime that you have a plant growing where the conditions aren't great for it, you can open the plant up to fungus because if they can't make the chemicals within their cells that they normally make to fend off fungus, then they get infected. So when did we see all that leaf spot? Remember at the Oakland County Complex, Steve, and we were talking about how bad the leaf spot was on the red twig
On
dog.
the dogwoods and on there was another one that had leaf spot too. They weren't related leaf spots, but they both had it.
Right, and in that case,
this is
yeah, hard pack.
Virginia sweet spire, and they are growing very near each other.
Virginia
And
sweet spire likes moist soil. The red twig dogwood likes moist soil.
yeah, so I didn't think it was a drainage issue.
Yeah, well, they like moist soil. They don't necessarily like bad drainage.
Mhm.
And I wonder whether it's just not quite the water is becoming too stagnant around their roots, not enough air. So mounding them up
That
might
could
help.
always be, yeah.
Yep. But the red twig dogwood especially, you don't really want to have spots on the leaves and put up with that because that same fungus infects the stems when they're young and it becomes that canker that kills stems down at the base and makes them turn black. But I haven't seen it on Virginia sweet spire. I'll have to look and see about that one. Huh.
Oh well, something new. A question I forgot. Therese was asking, what does intersectional mean for peonies?
Okay. Back to the strong peonies. The intersectional means that they're a cross between the tree peonies and the herbaceous peonies, the standard peonies that everybody's grandma and mom had that died down to the ground every year, and you cut them back and they came back up. Those herbaceous peonies bloom at a different time than the tree peonies do. And it wasn't until the 70s or 80s, maybe the 80s, that somebody figured out how to cross them so that you get peonies that have a bigger range of flower color. For instance, you can get a yellow peony, fragrant peonies. The fragrance of the herbaceous peony was able to be transferred to the intersectional peonies. So somebody figured out how to do that. I know the Russians did, and the Japanese did. So there are Ito peonies and some others now. Those are, and I mentioned them earlier without saying that those are always sturdy peonies, and for the most part, pretty disease resistant. They can get botrytis, but we cut them all the way back every year. Just pretend they're a herbaceous peony. People are worried about it. They say, but I cut it back. There's buds at the bottom of the stem. It's true. There's buds at the bottom of the stem above ground because it's got woody characteristics and it does set buds on the wood. But when you cut that wood all the way down to the ground, the buds from below come up, no problem. So intersectional peonies, they're expensive in most cases. But they're worth it. And some of them are very, very vigorous. Bartzella, for instance, is one that you can keep every year. Pretty much every year, you can take a piece and give it to somebody.
Hmm.
Okay. Should I keep going here?
Go through this, and then I've got some questions after plant of the week.
Okay, plant of the week. There are some things that are still blooming. Well, that Montauk daisy lost almost all of its leaves in the drought. We don't
Yeah.
want our garden, so our Montauk daisy is suffering, but it's still bloomed. It still said, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure that I make my flowers there." I cut that back every year to nothing. It is technically a shrub, and it gets real rangy and big if I don't cut it back. But I think sometimes cutting it back hard makes it a little more susceptible to drought because it's all such lush young foliage at the time when it got dry this year.
Yeah. The flowers even are visually smaller than they were last year.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it really suffered comparatively.
yeah. Um, it's a different color palette in the fall. You're looking not at the flowers, you're looking at foliage colors and textures next to each other. The Amsonia back there, Blue Star, is doing a good job right now of making its presence known and being a backdrop for the butterfly bushes that are still green and the evergreens, pines that are in here. The white seed heads on the cranberry, the sea kale, and the gray of the anaphyllus helps the red foliage of the penstemon stand out. So it's a readjustment of eyes and color appreciation this time of year to look at around at things. Even mulches show up as different colors. I'm using raw wood chips as I add to the garden, and pine needles where I took out that Rudbeckia and put in 3 clumps of Coreopsis. Those colors really stand out this time of year. And so I'm awarding the week's badge or plant of the week to hickories. Now there is a black cherry here. Most of its leaves are gone, but not a black, yeah, black cherry, Michigan black cherry. It's still got some reddish colored leaves threaded through here. But the hickory is this wonderful kind of butter yellow color. This was early in the morning, so the butter yellow is here where the sun is sitting at, and the hickory and the cherry in front of it's red is kind of concealing some of it. But the hickories are really saving the show this year because a lot of plants were pretty washed out color-wise. On our website, if you look for color guard or fall color, you'll get this. I can't remember how many pages there are. There's probably 40 related pages that start with choose your plants for fall color, where you can click on gold and it will take you to a page where you can click on ash and see our pictures of what color ash turns, aspen turns, crab apples, hickory, etc. And you can go through and take a look at whether sweet spire might work out in your garden because you're looking right now at what you're seeing out there, what colors are out there now, and you can compare it to what colors could be there. So the hickories, yeah, I never used to notice the hickories when we had ashes because the ashes were really the the stars when it came to gold early on, but the hickories are later, and they do a nice job of filling the sky.
They sure do.
Speaking of filling the sky, is there anyone here who knows enough about our atmosphere and seeing that yesterday our neighbor called? He's moved over to Holly, so he's a little ways away. He said, I saw a rainbow today, Janet. I said, oh, that's really neat. And that was at 5:45 yesterday. This morning, Sonia sent this picture, our daughter. She's in Guelph, and she said, last night as I left the college to drive home, there was a double rainbow, complete double went. Both sides of the rainbow went all the way across to the far side. And I wonder, could they see the same rainbow? Um, they're 200 miles apart, but it's a big rainbow. And we talked with our niece a while back. Steve, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, a while.
Steve and I and the kids were up on a mountaintop viewing area in the Canadian Rockies. We'd taken a cable car to get up there, and a big storm was moving in, and they closed the cable car down. So those of us who were up there were stuck in the restaurant. So we were standing in the restaurant and just kind of looking out. And as the storm came in, there was a rainbow, but it didn't go straight down to the ground. It was more than half a circle. It actually bent in at the middle, and we were looking. So I talked to our niece is a scientist at NASA and has done a lot of work on the ozone, the hole in the ozone layer, and have done a lot of high level flying to collect air samples up there. I asked her, I said, if you go high enough up, is it a circle? And she said, yes, a rainbow is a circle from high enough up. Um, if you're looking down on it that way. So I'm wondering, and I'm going to try to find out whether or not they might have seen the same rainbow. That's the kind of rabbit hole I was falling down this week. Oh, beautiful, Steve. That's gorgeous.
Okay. Sue wonders, should she cut back her oak leaf hydrangea now or wait in spring?
On woody plants, we think of the season as being over, but they're still translocating the starches that they made in the leaves to the roots and the buds. So if there's any concern on your part that it's a young plant and it's still growing, you can let it keep that wood until a winter thaw or springtime and cut it then and get a little more energy. If it's already big enough, go ahead and cut it back because it'll start growing from the buds in the spring. And if you're going to cut it back hard, you're going to lose the bloom on it, no matter whether you cut it back now or cut it back in the spring. But I think it was Michigan State Extension had a fruit school. Once you love to go to fruit school up in the Traverse City area years ago, and announced or presented the results of the study that they'd done on raspberries and blackberries, the cane fruits, because people say, should I cut them back now in the fall or do my cutting in the spring? And if you cut them back in the fall before hard freezes started, and that's for us usually late November, if you cut them back before then, next year's crop could be as much as 20% less the fruit that you got from them. So if you take that and kind of extrapolate that to other woody plants, you can see why they say maybe you should wait and cut it off in the springtime.
And Ruth was asking about knockout rows too. Cut back. Does it apply about the same way as what you were just describing?
I cut roses back whenever they grow so fast and they're such vigorous plants. So that if they're not in trouble and they're not brand new, you can go ahead and cut them back now. But if you go into a Rose Society meeting, you'll find people arguing about it all the time. There are people who say, no, you can't cut those roses back in the fall. They'll die back too far. And others who say, no, you have to cut them back in the fall because you need to cover them up. And I go, well, if you're going to cut them back hard to cover them up, um, what's really the difference? So I cut them back when I can get to them. And it's a lot of times easier to get to roses in the fall than the early spring. In the spring, there's so much else to do, and it's easier to weed around them and get them all cleaned up this time of year.
Therese needs to move two spirea bushes. Is it too late?
No, I'm still moving things around. It's
Okay.
the only problem with moving them around this time of year is that you need to try to keep them watered well around the outside of where not necessarily their root ball, but just outside the roots to make sure that there is loose soil and moist soil for them to be growing new roots into. and mulch them well. But
Okay.
go ahead.
Um, let's see. Oh, Ruth wonders about digging up her dahlias and how to store it.
Um, oh, and the pictures were last week. You can dig them up in a clump and leave them in a clump if you've got room for them, because the soil around them helps keep them from drying out over the winter. Generally, dahlias get lost over the winter, get die over the winter, become unviable when they dry out. Um, so, like Will, our friend Will, is that a Michigan basement underneath Will and Dave's house?
Yeah, half of it wasn't it? But they also got some work done on it, so I don't know if it
Yeah.
still is.
Yeah, they did maybe still have a basement that part of it had a dirt floor, old farmhouse, and it's not got a separate heating unit down there. So they can put their dahlias down there. He just takes the clumps out of the ground, or if he was growing them in pots, just takes the whole pots, just set them in the cool part of the garage of the basement, and then check them once in a while by weight to make sure that they're not drying out. If you don't have a space like that to keep them, then take them out of the ground, knock or rinse the soil off of the roots, let them sit dry and warm for a week so that the rind, the outside coating on the dahlia toughens up. And it will if you keep them warm and dry. Then you can store that cluster of tubers together, or some people cut them up ahead of time, cut them up in the fall. As long as you keep a piece of the stem, you have to cut through the stem and keep a little bit of stem for an eye growing up off of the tuber. Let's see, I know we made a video of up at Dahlia Hill in Midland of how Jeannie puts things away for the winter. I'll see if I can
We
find
also
that.
wrote about it in Michigan Gardener. We might have had it in a webinar.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
sure, I'm
Sonia. I
sure,
can't look up all these things.
yeah, I'm sure we did put it in a webinar. But if Ruth is asking, I will send it, I'll look that one up and send it to Ruth, and we'll put it into our next, in our garden so that you've got a reference. But I think
Yeah.
that there's a link I can send you, Ruth.
Suzanne's asking also about canna tropical bulbs. I was going to let them dry out and store them in peat moss or sawdust.
Yeah, and by dry out, you don't want them to dry all the way out. You just want to make sure that they're not wet. So you and make sure that they're as clean as you can make them if you're going to store them in peat moss. You don't want to have too much soil around them and get things wet because the
Josh,
yeah.
Jocelyn wondering about gladiolas too. Same.
Yeah, all the let's see, which ones would be different. All these are the same. I dig up my
Yep.
elephant ears or the voodoo lilies or the dahlias and the cannas. They all need to be stored someplace where they won't freeze, but they'll stay cool enough and moist enough. Ideally, 50% humidity and 50 degrees. If it's lower temperature, it can be higher. Lower temperature can be higher humidity. But
Yeah, the article I wrote for Michigan Gardener, we put some in newspaper, we put some in sand, they were in boxes in our room, in our back room that was cool, and you couldn't tell the difference between them when they were done.
no, you just need to
They
check them.
did well.
Make sure that they're not shriveling up at about once every few weeks, every 3, 4 weeks. Check and make sure that they're not shriveling and drying out because you might need to sprinkle a little bit of mist, a little bit of water on the packing material if they're not in
Yeah.
a good place.
Robert's asking, is vermiculite a good storage medium for cannas?
Vermiculite or perlite you can use, but I vermiculite's not recommended anymore because if you're in a closed area with vermiculite, breathing that stuff in can be a hazard, a health hazard. So for the most part, vermiculite's not being used now, but perlite, the white stuff that's mixed into potting mix is a good medium. Yeah, what did we use? Yeah, I think we used peat.
We did the three. That's right. That reminds me. We did use a potting mix almost.
Yeah,
We did three different boxes.
yeah. Well, we're gonna have to pull that article up.
Yeah.
But it's expensive to cover all of these things, especially if you got these cannas can be big clumps, this far across. And you might not need to keep the whole thing. So it might be a good idea to divide it. But every place that you cut the root, the tuber, or the corm that you're storing, every place you cut it, that's an opening where fungus can get in. Some people dust them with a fungicide, um, or with or they dip them in a little bit of 10% bleach solution, the cut, just to make sure that it doesn't get infected that way.
Yep.
Fall mixer, mixed up mulch. So the mulch that I put back here is pine needles. I'm raking. Although most of our good grass did die back this year. That's not dead grass over there. That's pine needles from our big white pine. It's shedding all its needles. And I rake them and put them on as mulch. They're nice mulch. But your best mulches, really, this time of year, are a mix. People say, well, I use Norway maple leaves and they mat down. So there's a Norway maple leaf. But there's also our neighbor's silver maple leaves in here, our locust, serviceberry leaves, pine needles. If you have all one kind of leaf, it might mat down. If you have a mixture of leaves, then the things that like to eat, say crabapple and serviceberry leaves and silver maple leaves, will work their way through the mulch and keep everything fluffy for you, and it won't mat down. So there I'm starting to spread a mixed mulch versus the pine needles. But it's there now for us to use. The rain knocked it down. Our locust leaves are everywhere. All you have to do is sweep them up or rake them up and use them. But
Or let them stick to the bottom of your shoes and vacuum them out of the house.
yeah, they really are a nuisance in that respect.
But they're
But
cool weeds. I like them.
yeah, and can you use evergreens as mulch? Yes, but they don't break down very quickly. Pine needles don't, spruce needles don't. They're going to stay their color that they are, and they're going to stay. If you leave twigs like this, they'll stay together. So I tend to like our pine will drop branches when there's a rain, little branches, and I rip them apart. I pull the twigs off of the bigger stems and lay them down because they're going to stay like that for a long time.
Yeah, trees use cedar shake and it works wonderful.
Ah, that sounds good.
Janine said the little weeds are job security for her. She cleans houses.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Exactly. Wow. No wonder you like crepe myrtle so much, Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what's cool
that's
here,
the roots.
yeah, that's the root. The green part is photosynthesizing. You've got a tree that's got multicolored bark like this. What you're seeing is the underlayer as the bark peels off and forms again, and that can photosynthesize. And that's one of the things that happens in the wintertime is that starts photosynthesizing and reabsorbing water, and you can get damage to the cambium right below the bark. Time to bring house those plants that summered out that you're bringing back in. So those in-out plants. Um, for years, every year at some point we got something from somebody that said, should I repot them? Should I put an insecticide in them so that they won't bring stuff in? And the answer is no. If they're healthy outside, all you really need to do is wash the plant off, wash its leaves off well, and that's more for the plant's benefit in the winter time. So this is our short report here. Soap spray. That's all that I would do is clean the leaves off by spraying them with soap. I would bring them in, and it's written down here someplace. There, I move the plant out of direct light, cover the soil with plastic wrap so that I'm not getting soap all over in the soil. Spray the leaves real good until they drip. Let them drip for about 20 minutes. And I use Murphy's oil soap. You can use any soap that's got maybe a little bit of degreaser in it is a soap that's going to help kill scale insects on the plant and mites. So I have Murray's oil soap and water and I spray the plant down, let it drip for 20 minutes, and then I spray it off. And outside, you can do that outside with a hose outside. Let them drip so that they're not dripping all over and take them in the house. Anything that comes in the soil is going to stay in the soil. It's not going to run around in your house. And by cleaning the plants off, in the fall when you bring them in, you're going to keep them from getting sick earlier. Let's see. I forgot what order I put these in. This is from falling down the rabbit hole. I'll tell you this in a minute. So I looked up, I said, okay, so if I just put in clean house plants before bringing in on the search in our website, I came up with Growing Concerns 580 that had this short report about cleaning up summer house plants. It also took me to the house plants, how much cold can they handle? 55 degrees for a lot of the plants, things start dying back. Um, and there's a whole lot more that can go down to 40 degrees. And there's a list in here. So bring them in before they get too cold and before they start dropping leaves. But if you clean the leaves while they're nice and healthy now, so that they can continue to photosynthesize as well as they can when you bring them in the house, they don't get weak quite so soon. A lot of people bring them in and now they come from 8,000 foot candles of light outside, even underneath a tree. They come into the house and they're coming into 500-foot candles of light, 700-foot candles of light, and they're going to starve. Basically, they can't keep all those leaves, so they start dropping leaves, and they also become weak and they become susceptible to a buildup of the pests that they live with all the time. So hibiscus has mites on it almost all the time. But when they get weak in the house, the mites can proliferate because the hibiscus isn't making the chemicals that tamp the population down, that are keeping them from reproducing so rapidly. And so then, along about Christmas time, you look and your plants are dying back. It isn't that it all happened at once, it happened a little bit at a time. So you start out cleaning them up. And one of the things that I found was what's coming up, number 163. I said, oh, that has something about plant cleaning. Plant cleaning. And when I opened it up, it's one of those that's a PDF magazine. And it reminded me why we stopped writing the magazine so much is that people said it was too much because it had not only something about fall color, and it did have the wash the houseplants insect trouble away. Wipe or rinse the leaves, clear off the insects and the eggs that are there. Because things like scale on bay trees and on gardenias, the scale, there might be a couple of scales there, but come winter, when the plant is weak, there's so many scales that it's dropping city mold all over things. So once you get them inside, you can still have a cleaning day, maybe once a month, maybe once every few weeks. Put them in the shower and shower them off, clean them off. They've been getting it outside when it rains. But also,
Oh,
yeah.
Michelle was wondering, what's the harm if soapy water gets into the soil? Isn't there bugs in the soil too?
Well,
When you mentioned you cover the
yeah,
pot.
I cover the soil because soap has surfactants in it that break down if you've got nice crumbs of soil where your potting soil has gotten biologically active. Yes, there's things living in it. And so it's gotten crummy. It's not packing down real tight. And soap in there can break up the crumbs and they'll settle and they can make an impervious layer across the top and water doesn't go in very well. So I don't like to get a bunch of soap into the soil. So I'm covering it just to keep the soap out. And soap in the soil probably won't kill insects that are there. There might be fungus gnats or whatever that are in there, but they're not going to be contacted by the soap spray on their skeletons in quite the same way that the particles are breaking up and being absorbed. And so it's probably not going to kill them anyway. But I'm not worried about killing the stuff in the soil. There's really not much there that's going to do anything. Some people get upset because worms come in and then they might find dead worms in the morning. There was an office building that I worked in that people were always complaining about finding dead worms because some worms had come in from the greenhouse, but they're not going to move around. They're not going to come go over to your house. Not going to invade your house. Yeah.
Diane is wondering, how is it these insects just materialize indoors on plants? It's
Well,
Mother Nature saying, ha ha
yeah,
ha.
I mean, sometimes eggs come in and there can be grubs in the soil. There can be in the drain holes, you often find we call them armadillos, sow bugs and pill bugs. But they're not going to move out into a drier area, and if they do, they die. We had problem in this house when we moved in with pill bugs coming in because the soil had been raised so high on pointlessly raised beds around the house that the windowsills were covered. And the sound bugs were just wandering in, but every single day they were full of sound bugs. Once I took the soil level down, I'm fine again. But do you remember Translator Man, Steve? When we were on radio and we had ads that were our students came in and helped us do Translator Man ads for
I
various
have a vague recollection of it.
and black walnuts about
Yep.
people writing in about the way that they shelled black walnuts. The one guy that put them on his driveway would drive over them with the car to break the outside rind because it's
Oh, yeah.
the black walnut.
Yeah. Before I forget, Michelle had a question about will poison ivy killer work on the poison ivy that the leaves are gone?
Not unless you're not unless you're cutting and painting the cut stub, because it has to absorb into the plant and the bark isn't going to absorb very much and the buds that are closed up aren't going to absorb very much. But if you cut the stem and paint the the downward side of the stem, it can absorb into the stem and it'll kill it. But no, you can't, it doesn't work to spray the woody parts above if you don't make cuts into them.
Okay.
This is one of our 45-mile-an-hour gardens. That's our native smoke bush. Our native smoke bush is such a great color.
It can be spectacular.
Yeah, and much later than the others. There were also in that this is all in one article, and we put these out every week. So there's an article about what you cut back and what you can cut back, what you don't have to cut back, whether you leave stubs up or not. There's some books that I've read that say, leave stubble up when you cut down the plants because it helps hold the mulch around the base. I just mulch right over the top of plants and the mulch stays there fine. Leaves don't blow away. And I don't want to have to come back and cut those stubs out of the way later and tell you about.
Yeah. By springtime, when you go to cut it, they could be mushy. There's new stems coming up. How do you fit your cutter heads in there?
Yeah.
And you're not in as good a shape as you were in the fall. Get it done in the fall.
Yeah. There's an article about what to cut back and why. Things that you can leave up. Things about what part of the lilac was going to be blooming and what you might cut off. We called it scrabbling. We've got a whole section on scrabbling and cool words like marcescent. Marcescent is what oak leaves on juvenile parts of the wood are where they hang on through the wintertime. And poison ivy, we dig it out if we can possibly dig it out. We dig it out like a weed. And our voodoo lily. So here's a voodoo lily that Dave DeVries sent in. It blooms in the winter time out of the soil. So if I bring the bulb in, my bulbs are probably not big enough to bloom yet, to have a flower yet. But if they do, when they bloom in the winter time, and you've got them stored somewhere, you're going to smell them. Sonia, who's been doing this for longer than I have, Sonia Slaughter, says she puts a plastic bag over the whole thing so that she doesn't have to smell it. But during the summer, they're just one big leaf, one big hand-shaped divided leaf on the stem, and it's all speckly like this. They're a cool, weird-looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dawn redwood, Steve?
Yep.
Yeah. They call that, you guys, they call dawn redwood the armpit tree because of these deep sinuses that form between the buttress roots and underneath the main branches. Armpit tree.
Nothing new in chat on questions.
Yeah, look at all those armpits.
And you could start seeing a lot of ents in those too.
Yeah, this guy's got a chin and an open mouth and eyes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, milkweed bugs. Maybe nobody cares about them, but I got a question about them this week. And another, probably 5 rabbit holes opened up along the way. So the milkweed bug picture came in from Gail. She said, look at all these milkweed bugs. She said, and they're not on the milkweed, they're on the liatris. This is liatris pycnostachya, the big, tall, monarch attracting liatris. And I said, what are they doing there? So we started looking them up. Milkweed bugs. And they are bugs. That's a technical term. Bugs are eat by piercing a leaf or seed. In the case of the milkweed bugs, they eat primarily the seeds as adults. They pierce the seed and inject something that they helps them liquefy and suck out the contents. And the bugs are not like caterpillars and bees and wasps. They don't go into a pupa or a cocoon or a larval state. They're a nymph. They look like themselves, but just smaller, like grasshoppers do and crickets. They just get bigger. 4 times they're bigger until these wings get big enough to cover their back. So these are all young ones. And I said, well, maybe they're eating the liatris seeds because small milkweed bugs, and when I look this up, small milkweed bugs can eat other kinds of seeds too. So maybe they're eating those seeds. So she went and pulled some seeds out of the liatris. So you can see they look kind of like sunflower seeds. They're another composite related to daisies and sunflowers. And she said, yeah, maybe they're eating those seeds. So it could be because they have to get to adult. Here's an adult now. These wings have grown out now, and they're showing the characteristic pattern where they form a band across them like this. And when Gail asked another friend who looked at her milkweed, the picture didn't come out. It's hard to get a camera to focus when you're looking through leaves like this, but there are some adults as well as some nymphs here of the milkweed bugs. So we said, okay, they just wandered onto the liatris. They got to overwinter now. They overwinter as adults, and they not just overwinter, they overspring and over early summer too, because they don't come out, mate, and lay eggs. And they don't come out like emerge like butterfly does. They walk out of wherever they've been hiding, and they mate and lay eggs once there are seed pods because they're pretty much going to feed on the seed pods. So, okay, fine. They're just on the lasers because they're eating a different kind of seed, we said. Then I found that there are both large milkweed bugs, and that's the technical name. They're the Onchopeltis fasciatus. And there are also small milkweed bugs, different genus completely, Lagaeus calmii. And the small milkweed bugs do often eat more than one thing, but the large milkweed bugs don't. I said, well, then what were they doing? I went right back to what were they doing on the liatris? When I looked them up, so this is from Louisiana Extension, they're what they call their arthropod museum, to show you what they look like and tell you about their life cycle. Because I'm trying to figure out, well, what are they doing? And here they are, end of October, and they're still developing. They develop 4 times, and it takes them about 30 days at 85 degrees to go from an egg to an adult. So I'm wondering, I think these guys aren't going to make it, and that can happen. That bugs don't make it all the way through. Then I find out, and just keep looking around for different information. These guys migrate like monarchs do. They head for other areas. They can fly for hours, and they're pretty strong flyers. So they go away. And why is there so much information about them? And why is there I'm finding research about them? They sell them for research. They're easy to raise. They're fast to mature. And so they're used a lot in experimental science work. For instance, they wanted.
Does this chemical kill it?
That's right. Does this chemical kill it? And how does it affect things? So look here. The dispersal strategies, where they go. So this is the large milkweed bug and the small milkweed bug, Lagaeus calmii and Onchopeltis fasciatus. But how they migrate, where they go to, how far they go, the chemical ecology, in other words, how they're absorbing parts of the milkweed and using those, assimilating those chemicals and changing them to use them as toxins in their own body so they don't get eaten so much. Come on, where's the other one? Interference. Oh shoot, I guess I didn't copy the right page they had. But yes, they were checking cadmium. So if you have levels of particular metals in the soil, they can use these bugs to see how does it affect the life in the soil. And on, let's see, on Bug Guide. So this is, let's see, what was this? The pheromones so they're looking at the pheromones that are used to attract things. What happens with the parasites that live on those bugs? On Bug Guide, where I go primarily for pictures on Bug Guide. And on the page for milkweed bugs on Bug Guide, there are some notes about life cycle, and those notes have footnotes on them that lead you to other pages in the Bug Guide. And Bug Guide is primarily, it is which is peer reviewed. There are a lot of entomologists that post on there, so they will correct each other and change names and move things around. And there's a whole page there on it from a guy in Texas who raises them like we do monarchs, and he names them, and he really enjoys watching them. He moves them out carefully out into the garden in the springtime after they've spent the winter. He's tethered them somehow. This is kind of cool that people are into this stuff, and these are the rabbit holes that I've been falling down because I thought they're just milkweed bugs. No, they're a commodity in the scientific industry world. Now, what is that, Steve? Is that another crepe myrtle?
It might be it was in the Asian collection in at the National Arboretum, and it might have been a type of Storia
Oh, okay. God, that's
or something along that. So,
gorgeous.
uh, yeah, Ruth said she didn't see many milkweed bugs this year. And
I saw,
Suzanne,
yeah,
are the milkweed bugs a harmful one?
no, it's another thing that all the things I found out along the way. I should be trying to tell you all of them. For the most part, milkweed bugs eat the seeds of milkweed. They are not going to bother the plant or compete with the caterpillars for the large milkweed bugs. They're not going to compete with the caterpillars for the leaf because they're not interested in eating the leaf. They want to eat the seeds. The small milkweed bugs, according to at least one of the papers that I read, are more generalists in eating, and they would maybe go over to the litrus and eat litrus seeds. They can eat oleanders related to my milkweed, and they can eat oleander seeds. They can eat cashew seeds and almond seeds. Um, and according to that paper, they will take protein wherever they could find it, and they will eat monarch eggs, but that's the small milkweed bug. It looks similar to the large milkweed bug, but it is smaller and it's got some white spots on it. Um, Another paper was studying the effect of the milkweed bugs on the plants and their competition with the monarchs, and found that if there were a lot of milkweed bugs on the plant, it was not necessarily detrimental to the monarchs because the predators that were coming to eat things could eat other things than the caterpillars of the monarch. There was more food for them there. So no, it's not a problem. And those extension bulletins that dealt with if you want to control them were indicating that you should wait probably until the flowers are done blooming and the seeds are forming, and then you could use the soap spray, which wouldn't bother the remaining monarch caterpillars so much if you wanted to get rid of them. But your best way to keep the population down is to deadhead your milkweed. Doesn't affect the monarchs; they're not eating the seeds, and it keeps the number of seeds down, which keeps the amount of food for the milkweed bugs down. So no, you don't have to worry about them. They also
Bruce has, Bruce has a huge coleus in a big pot. If he cuts it back to the soil and bring it in the garage, will it start up in the spring?
Coleus can handle eight, eight. And that's, let's see, or 20 below 10,
Zero.
0, 0. So that's like 0. If it doesn't go below 0, and actually it should probably not freeze in your garage, you can keep the coleus like that. Because if it becomes a woody shrub further south, um, the problem is whether it will freeze. So if you
Yeah.
put we have water that we store in our garage because we have a well, and if the power goes out, we're out of water. So we keep water in jugs out in the garage that we can bring in to flush toilets and stuff if the power goes out. And those don't freeze. So we know we could keep them there against the house wall in the garage. But further out in the garage, things do freeze if I keep buckets of plants out. So you got to find a place where it doesn't freeze, and then you could keep it that way. You can also just take a cutting of it and put it in water and put it on a windowsill, and you'll have that same coleus next year. You can keep coleus rooting for almost forever in water like that.
You got about 4 minutes.
Oh no. Someone asked about making cuttings of fuchsia, talking about cutting up. of coleus. And I looked in the Ball Red book is for greenhouse growers and it has a lot of the crops in it, like fuchsia, a very important hanging basket item. Um, and the most effective way to propagate it is by cuttings taken in spring or summer when the plant is actively growing. And this is true for almost all plants. Um, the Red Book for greenhouse growers assumes that people are buying, oh, where they go? Dormant fuchsias. They get dormant fuchsias, plant them, and then they make cuttings from those. And they explain that they need to have the day length be less than 12 hours, but more than 10 hours in order to keep the plant actively growing. And then you can take cuttings from it. And along the way, a rabbit hole I fell down in here is that I said, oh, well, looking at fuchsia, it also appears on the list as sensitive to ozone injury. So, well, no wonder fuchsias look so good when they're at somebody's cottage or on the Maine coast somewhere. And if you're near vehicles, cars, trucks, large roads, your ozone levels are probably higher than they should be, and they get problems, necrotic symptoms. They die on the edges. Um, so these books that are for propagating are good for other things, like learning why it is that your plant looks the way that it does, light-colored spots, flecks, stipples, and it's ozone problems that you're probably not going to be able to do anything about. It's also, I said, pan injury. What's pan? Pan is another gas that forms, and we call it smog. And the higher the light is, the more it burns the leaves. It's interesting to find these things out. Our textbook tells us that fuchsia is leafy cuttings under humid conditions. So you wouldn't put it in water. You would put it where you could um, drape over the top of it. We've shown you how to make little terrariums out of when you pot the plant, stick the cutting into soil mix or into perlite or into sand. Then you put some drinking straws, stick them in the soil around it to prop up a plastic bag that you put over the straws and then rubber band it around the pot. And you get a little terrarium as long as it stays with condensation on the inside of the plastic that you put up there. You don't have to water them then. And they should root in 10 or 20 days. But if you wanted to get a book for plant propagation, I don't think you can get a better one than the Horticultural Society's plant propagation book, which has lots of wonderful pictures to show you. I don't really like rooting things in florist foam because then sometimes that foam never breaks down. It's there forever and dries out in the center of the plant. But the softwood cuttings are what they recommend, which means you're taking the new growth, the active growing growth, not with flowers on it, no flower buds on it. You cut 2 nodes, take out the tip because it's soft, and jam it into the potting mix so that 1 node is below ground. Keep it moist, and it'll root for you. So they're taking the soft tip out. If the leaves are too big on something like on your coleus, you can cut the leaf in half so that it fits into your terrarium. The node is where your rooting is going to start. And coleus works just exactly this way. And along the way, I said, oh, well, I haven't pulled out my flora books in quite a while. Do you know that there's 100 species of fuchsia? Not 100 varieties. There are thousands of varieties of them and crosses and selections. There are 100 species of fuchsia. These are each different species of fuchsia. The world is a very diverse, wonderful place. They're so pretty. They're so destructive. There's some loose ends here. The tools are still here. Fork is gone. And anybody knows somebody that needs to stock up on tools, our friend that has to move suddenly is not going to have a garden again, and she has a lot of tools that we took out of her way so they can get out of sorting. Nice little chainsaw. You just got to call me and tell me that you want it, and we'll find a way to get it to you, or you can come pick it up. And some decorative stuff too, staking sets, a legitimate 2 foot tall milk can, wonderful fiberglass pot. Someone asked about the woolly bear caterpillars and what they turn into. There it is. It's an Isabella tiger moth. The yellow ones turn into the tiger moth. And see, it's just a moth. Just one of those that flutters on your screen at night. Let's see, who had the deer? I think Gretchen had the deer attack her seven sun shrub, and what can we do about that? They are very difficult to keep away. We put barriers around it at buckhead height, But Gail sent in this picture this week. She said, this guy, this neighbor, was very proud of what he was doing to keep the deer away. He said, it's all over the internet that this works. I'm sorry, you guys that might try this. This doesn't work. They are able to get down between things and chew them off. In fact, most of these have been deer bit. The deer make a particular kind of bite where there's always since they don't have bottom teeth, there's always a tag end spring off. But don't go to all the trouble. Pumpkins. Barb had a pumpkin question about when do you know that they're done and will they turn orange after they come off the vine? And she reported, thank you for follow-up, telling us what you found out. Her half green pumpkin did turn orange when she kept it someplace warm. And you bring them in when the rind is hard enough that you can't pierce it easily with a fingernail, because pumpkins are fun. This is my head gardener pumpkin display one Halloween. There's the head gardener holding his head, and here's the pumpkins he is raising out of the ground. And does anybody know what this is? Came out of somebody's pot, and they didn't know what the names of any of the things were that they had. It is not a Jerusalem artichoke, and it is not a begonia corm. This is the bottom. This is the top. And if anybody recognizes this, because so far I haven't been able to find anything even to get AI to match it up. Whoops. Whatever it is, it's a cool looking critter.
Yep. RK would like the vintage milk jug.
Okay, great.
Jean would like the chainsaw. She said, how much? I wasn't sure.
Well, Teresa is just willing to take a donation or to just get them to a good home. She doesn't want to throw them out and she's not going to be using these anymore. So for instance, that antique typewriter went for $10. She just took $10 for it. So if you want to donate something, I'll take it over to Teresa but otherwise she's just get them out of the way. So the milk jug and the chainsaw. A chainsaw looked to me like it needs a new chain, which costs about what, $19 for a new chain?
Yeah, depending on the size and the quality of chain that you buy, you should buy a good chain. The bad ones burn out so fast.
Yeah, the only one I can find for that, because that's kind of the same brand that we have. I have to buy Milwaukee chains because that's what they have that fit it.
Yeah. I think the fork was gone, you said, right?
Yeah, the fork is
I
gone.
already got that. Okay.
Okay, so I will set the milk jug aside and the chainsaw aside. The milkweed bugs overwinter, either if it's warm enough, they'll overwinter just in debris in the garden, but they do migrate, and they migrate to places they can do what box elder bugs do. If they find a space to get into a wall of a house, they could overwinter in a wall of a house too.
Where does woolly bear overwinter?
Oh, the woolly bear overwinters anywhere I can find that. They're often in wood piles, tucked in underneath wood piles. We found them tucked into our garage and at the bottom of boxes, and underneath boxes that are on shelves. They just follow the warmth, I think. He was fun, a big pumpkin.
Yeah. You guys did a lot.
So that's all.
I have a couple questions.
All right.
At the beginning of it, you said get two 10-foot black iron pipes
Hmm.
and put 4 feet below ground and 6 feet above.
Right.
So do you just put like a board on top of that and pound it with a sledgehammer?
Well, you don't necessarily need to put a board on top of it. You can just pound it with a sledgehammer, stand on a ladder and have someone hold it. Steve usually stands and holds the level to make sure that it's going in straight. And I would pound from above. And then we bought a what's it called, Steve? A pipe driver.
A pipe driver, yep.
There's a thing you can buy that's like a long metal can, heavy can with handles on either side, and you just fit it over the top, and you just keep pounding on it. It's very easy to get it in that way.
Works much better than a sledgehammer.
And if you're any place nearby, Carol, you want to borrow ours, we only use it, once in a great while, but it's a great tool. So if you wanted to borrow ours, you could, or maybe you'll find out that somebody else has one. Either that,
Where would you find that?
at the hardware like Home Depot and Lowe's and the
Tractor
hardware store.
Supply.
Yeah.
Or
Places
Ace or
like that.
any of
You might
those?
you might have to ask, but
I think
I guess we know
Ace
where we got
I think
ours.
Ace is less likely to stock them.
Okay.
Most of the Ace True Values can get stuff from a warehouse for you, and they might have it in the warehouse, but I doubt that they would have it out with because they have a limited space.
Okay.
It
Might
doesn't
even be able to
us.
order it from Amazon for all I know.
And
Yeah,
it's called a pipe driver,
yeah,
That's what we
correct?
call it.
yeah,
Manual one, not a, it's doesn't have a motor on it. It's manual.
Okay.
yeah.
Then you said zip ties. How long do you think? I'm asking these questions because the person who was going to work on this summer was sick for the project, and so I'm trying to get money, trying to get these things and get reimbursed in the next couple of weeks. How long do you think I should get the zip ties?
I go with the ones that are like 9 inches to 12 inches because I'd rather have enough to go around whatever the size of the wood is, plus around the pipe. If they're not long enough, I just put two together. So you extend you slip one into the other, and now you got a
Well,
double.
that's a good idea.
Nancy
I,
mentions that it might be called post driver, not pipe driver.
Okay, yeah.
Post driver.
okay. And then you said 12 to 14 gauge copper wire that would replace those zip ties.
Yeah.
Where do you get that wire?
That's at a hardware store. Most of the big box stores have their wire is all insulated. It has a coating on it, and you'd have to strip the coating off. I like the color that the copper turns and the fact that it doesn't rust, like any other kind of wire that you would use to put out there. And so you do have to ask around for that one. And for us, we get it from a regular from one of the smaller hardware stores.
Like
Yep.
Ace might have that.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yep. Our local McNabb's had it.
Do you know Gilroy's?
You
Gilroy's.
should have it.
No, Jeans down
Oh,
in
jeans I was thinking of.
yeah, Jeans in Farmington, and what's the one down on in Dearborn, Steve?
Dukes. Dukes.
Duke's. Yeah, Duke's would have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well, I
Yeah,
live between Flint and Saginaw, so I'll see if I can find it up here.
yeah. Just call, ask
I,
them for uninsulated bare copper wire. Yeah,
even if you go to electric supply um, company, they might have it.
yeah. And we did decide early on that we were going to make our roots update open to the public because it is part of our campaign to get the word out. But now, once we've looked at the material that we have put together, we have time to add to it. So Sonia is going to be doing a European garden tour as part of our weekend walkabout. That's next Saturday, November 1st. So we are not doing a Free for All Friday next Friday, but you are welcome to come November 1st.
Yep, it's open to everybody.
And we'll be back with Free for All number 59 on November 7th. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm glad that
And
you could be interested in the same kind of crazy things that we're interested in.